465-2621. We will sit with you, discover your needs, and design a solution that fits your budget. Advertising works, and with ZIZ, it works even better for your business.
Welcome back to the program. You're listening to The Edge here in ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm Devonne Cornelius. Thank you for joining. Today we have representatives of the Nyabinghi Theocracy Order. Tell us who you are.
I think it's Nevis National Reparations Committee.
Carla Astefan of the St. Kitts Nevis National Reparations Committee.
So I'm Ras Agad. I am from House Tiwaladi. We collaborate with Nyabinghi with such activities.
Awesome. And we have a guest joining via the phone lines. Let's just check to see if he's hearing us clearly. Good morning.
Yes, hi, greetings.
Awesome.
Hearing you loud and clear. This is Ras Iyah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. So the conversation today will be centered around our redemption begins with knowledge of our black story. In the Caribbean, a number of groups and organizations commemorate, celebrate Black History Month, whether it be week of activities or just a single day, and they use the opportunity to educate our people about our story, our black story, what happened, whether it be here in the Caribbean or with our ancestors. Agad, I want to begin with you, and then we'll go to Ms. Astefan, and then to our guest on the phone line.
You make me feel like I'm in school. I got an injection, I got A, I got to give it an A, I got to dig first.
Right, so our redemption begins with knowledge of our black story, the significance of this theme, and the reason why it was chosen.
Well, I don't fully over the full meditation of the brethren who came up with the topic, but invited me to full take in it. I would say that just like the Khazarian people who became Jews have a day in January the 27th, to be exact, have a day as a memorial of the Jewish Holocaust and the whole Atlantic slave trade that went back, where our story went even behind that. There's no day to celebrate that. And therefore it would now go into the saying that, you know, he who forget his history is bound to repeat all the errors that the ancestors might have made. So we don't have that fuel to fuel our youngsters, and even to fuel those who might be a little bit low on fuel to just keep the black story alive. Instead, we are trying to forget it. You know, we're trying to forget it, and then we start copying other people's story and trying to fit ourselves in their story and don't want to do anything with our story. We have, for example, you know, we have a lot of guys who speak a lot about black consciousness. But then there was a offering made by a Nigerian, I think it was, who was offering some Swahili classes for free, absolutely free. And he just couldn't get a number of 10 persons to just show up, you know, so he just decided to abandon that. So, and that is because there is no fuel. There's not enough fuel about our black story to fuel that desire that we would even want to learn our ancestors' languages. And we are saying that we need to push that fuel, you know, let the fire burn and let people get more interested into their own story and start trying to fit themselves in other people's story.
What do you think can be done to, as you mentioned, keep the black story alive? I don't know if you want to chime in here as well.
Okay.
Carla?
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. Our redemption begins with knowledge of our black history. Means that we really have to start to educate ourselves about who we are. For me, I have always kept reading, and especially now that we have social media, there's so much knowledge available to us about Africa. So we start there. And Africa is a huge continent made up of many different cultures and peoples. And we can take our time and begin to sort of familiarize ourselves, not just take in what has been fed to us by the media from since we know ourselves, right? I have a Black Study Bible, for instance, that was given to me all the way back in 1986 or something like that, 96. And so I read those stories, see what the meanings, where how our people played a role in that biblical story. Okay, sometimes I just go online and just see what I can find about, you know, especially the places that our people were from. I try to see if I can recognize people who look like me.
Right.
You understand? I look at the culture that we have today, our food, our dance, our storytelling. All of those things go all the way back to the beginning as to who we are. So it's about educating ourselves and seeing how we are so strongly African. And so to redeem ourselves, it is to know our story, to educate ourselves about our story. That's what I would say in short.
As you made that contribution, I was listening to a conversation last night, and the person on the panel said, looking at different cultures in the continent of Africa, and when you try to bring it home here to the Caribbean, there are more similarities.
Yeah, there are a lot.
Differences.
I mean, I have looked at the influence of the Yoruba culture on the Western world, our food, you know, our dance, the way we talk. A lot of the words are still there.
Yes.
You know, and so I think it's very fascinating. There's a we call it in Dominica a lavwe. Like it means it's like women are singing and other people are answering, and then I heard a similar size, but that's what that's why I used to hear, you know, when we have these cultural activities. You understand? We see the Mokojambi, we see the masquerade, we see the behavior, we see the way in which we dance, all of those things, and I don't want to stop, you know, to take up the whole show talking about just, but there's the other part, our royalty, you know, the fact that a lot of royal people, there was this royal lineage and all of this that we can look at to see that. The other day a man was talking to me and he said something about the slaves. I said, there's no country called slaves. There's a country called Africa, and people were stolen and enslaved. I had to stop him in his tracks because we're not having a conversation about our people, and that is the language has to change, because we have to know that we came from a people.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that, Ras R.I. Again, thank you so much for joining. So we're talking about our redemption begins with knowledge of our black story. We want you to speak to the significance of the theme and what does it mean for us.
Yes, greetings in it again in the divine name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I and Empress Menen, our great ancestors, the great gods and goddesses of our ancient black eternal race. And all that I just said there is so important to us as we delve into our history, our story. Redemption. When I think of redemption, I think of healing, I think of freedom, I think of liberation, you know, some type of intervention to really save or rehabilitate the African mind. I think the theme is quite fitting because, as Brother Kalanji often said, we need some national consciousness, which is seriously lacking. But the negative influences really that would have been thrust upon us, you know, religion, slavery, colonialism, neo-colonialism. These are the things that really would have kept our people in that mindset. And moving forward into this Iyah, we have to really make the necessary changes, really change the governmental structures, our education system, the type of things that we teach in school, the languages that we offer. Not even we offer an African language, and we offer in Mandarin. So it speaks to the mindset, you know, that we are on. And what we're saying is, in order for I and I to regain that knowledge and that status as to who we are as African people, and many of us would question the name African and black and so on, but we're speaking about we the African people. In order for us to regain that status, you know, we must change a lot of the things that are going on. I mean, our youth need to understand that when they ask who they are, their response should not be, well, our foreparents came here slaves. I mean, that is the interruption of our story. We are descendants of kings and queens and emperors. When Columbus went to Africa, he didn't meet us running around in jungle and swinging from trees. These guys raided hospitals, they raided schools. So Africa in itself was already at the height of civilization when we had this kind of interruption. And so it's important for us to know where we came from and what we would have gone through, what would have brought us here. Because many of us are satisfied with the status quo right now. We have a job, a house, and so on, and we're cool. We want in on board Africa. But when we really think about what we would have given up, you know, our whole mindset would change. And that is really the path we need to go, especially we're talking things like reparations. We must learn a language to go home. because reparation includes repatriation. We need to be doing business with Africa on a daily business. We need to learn the language. And so, you know, these are the type of mindset I think would change, that needs to be changed for I to realize that true African redemption or liberation.
I made the point earlier about there being more similarities than differences. What do you think needs to be done now to keep the black story alive?
We got to be black, think black, eat black, worship black. You know, it really has to be some revolutionary changes. And one thing about the Rastafari community, we have never shied from highlighting these things. We tell you straight up, your God must be black. We tell you straight up, you come from an ancient monarchy. You don't need to recognize Elizabeth and Charles and them. That's not our monarchy. And Rastafari has been very revolutionary in their thoughts. And we must bring the true story, because the half has not been told. We have been taught the story of the hunter and the fox, but we have been taught that story from the spectacles of the hunter. Now, the fox would have a totally different story. That's the story that we really need to tell, you know. But definitely our similarities are because we are one people, you know. Same ship, different trip. Mothers and fathers were dropped off in a different island. So really and truly, families were scattered all about, and that connection is still home in Africa. So there must be similarities. Our forefathers brought the African tradition in their DNA, you know. The ladies hid seeds and stuff in their hair. So many things were brought from Africa.
Right, thank you. Carla?
Talking of redemption and talking of a thought just came to my mind: healing. You know, there's a lot of healing we need that has to be done for us to be for us to have that sense of redemption, right? So, just recently we had an awful crime that was perpetrated against children. And my friends and I, we were talking, and one of the things I brought up, because one friend was able to tell me about not having a mother to grow up with. Okay. This other guy, told me about his mother putting him out. And as I reflected on it, I said that was one of the things in slavery that has to be dealt with, where children were constantly taken, homes were being broken up, children taken. So he talked about DNA. Also, while we also have the kings and queens in our DNA, we also are a people who have been torn apart constantly. So there's a need for some healing to take place, for therapy to take place, so that we can sort of manage. We have, in our DNA, the fact that our parents, our great-grandparents, their children were taken away from them. So there's this bit of disconnect somewhere in our DNA, that we're able to let go of our children. You understand? So you see that is part of the problem in our society today, where I saw it on the news in Miami, where some woman killed her twins, and then we had a similar situation. I know there are other factors that play into those things. Okay. Yeah. But it brings me to the fact, and I think it's Dr. Joy who talks about collective dissonance or something like that, where we have this cognitive, I can't remember the word right now, but we have this in our DNA as well. So there's a need for some sort for us to come together and really look deep into who we are and start to teach differently about ourselves, so that for me, I think it's necessary, because you've read, I read Mary Prince, the narratives of Mary Prince, who, she talked about how she was torn from her mother, So that all of those things happen in slavery, and because it's in us, it continues to happen today, where mothers can easily let go of the children, leave their children, fathers run wild, 50 million children, and so on, all over the place, because of that breeding. All of those things have to be dealt with.
You spoke about healing. Do you think our people are afraid of starting the conversation for that process to begin?
I think so. I think we don't want to look deep within. I think when we get glimpses of it, we have gotten glimpses of it, and we feel things. Some people tell you they don't want to look at 12 years a slave. They don't want to look at this. They don't want to look at that. Anything that's going to touch that chord within them, that's going to remind them. You understand? People don't want to look at African stuff because it touches something deep within your core that you don't want to deal with, and it is that need for us to deal with it. There is that need for us to deal with it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. It is 11:30. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation here on The Edge. Stay tuned.
ZIZ Radio, entertaining the nation, enjoyed by the world. From the heart of ZIZ Radio comes a political talk show like no other. The Edge, with host Devonne Cornelius giving you his take on the biggest stories happening in governance today. Got something to say? Let's hear it. Give us a call at 869-465-2555, Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. One solid hour of in-depth analysis of the machinery that makes our country tick. The Edge, cutting into the matters at hand.
The future is unknown. Protect your life, your family, and your valuables from unforeseen circumstances. Let National Caribbean Insurance give you the peace of mind that you so deserve. At NCI, we offer a suite of affordable insurance plans that can be tailored to ease your financial burden. We aim to deliver exceptional products to satisfy all your insurance needs. Whether life, health, motor, or property insurance, NCI has the right solution for you. Our friendly and knowledgeable sales professionals are ready and able to assist you. Let National Caribbean Insurance Company Limited help you to prepare for the unexpected. We serve, we protect, we satisfy. That's NCI.
Welcome back to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm Devonne Cornelius. Let's continue the conversation. Carl, you're from the Reparations Committee. My question to you is, what role would the Reparations Committee play in keeping our black story alive?
Iyah is from the Reparations Committee too, he's the vice chair. So the role we are playing is one of advocacy, because one of the ways in which we can accomplish better education on topics to do with what we're discussing today, one of the ways in which we can bring about that healing and educate and heal and all of the other things that needs to be done is about repairing, what has been done, the wrongs that has been done. So we are looking at reparatory justice from the countries, from the institutions, from companies that benefited from the enslavement of Africans. Right here in St. Kitts, we have had, I don't know if people are aware, but at abolition, over 300,000 pounds sterling was paid out for St. Kitts. And I think it's almost between about 150, I don't have the numbers in front of me,
okay,
£1,000 to Nevis. Okay, so people benefited, different owners of enslaved people benefited. So we are doing the research to see where these families are today. Okay? We have been very fortunate to discover one company whose the genesis of that company started with a man who actually owned enslaved people on St. Kitts. Mm-hmm. And so his family was compensated for that. So they have agreed to meet with us, and we're going to be meeting next week to discuss. And so we don't know yet what shape that is going to take, but we fall under the CARICOM Reparations Commission, and it is part of, looking at all of these countries and companies and institutions. And we've had some, I don't know if you've been following it, last year you had the Church of England come forward, you had Laura Trevelyan, the Trevelyan family come forward, you had the Gladstone family come forward, you've had the Dutch in the Dutch islands. The Dutch has issued an apology, and they're going to make some form of financial reparatory justice to the Dutch.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Rasai?
Greetings, yes, I guess Carla would have covered quite a bit in terms of what we're doing, but additionally, one of the things that we do, we actually set our links. We build relationship with the local conscious community, and basically lend support to them when they're having something like this, where we have the opportunity to share the information and the knowledge regarding Black story, our story. And as Carl would have mentioned, we would have also have links with CARICOM to the Reparations Committee, and this is both regionally and internationally. So it's very important that we stay attuned as to what's happening outside there as well, because reparation is really a unified and a collective move. But basically, that's what we've been doing here. I am not sure if within the whole region, though, if enough attention is given to reparations, especially when it comes to the education systems, the schools and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for that. How there are people who are ignorant, mm-hmm. very ignorant, when it comes to the conversation of reparations. Would you say that has had a negative impact on the efforts the committee has been making over the years?
Ignorant in terms of they're against, or
they're completely against.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Igad, you want to jump in there? Because Igad is one of those.
I'm one of those who are kind of against, but not against the concept, though.
Okay.
I just think that reparation it should not be about paying money, mm-hmm. Because it's like this. We are already in a state. The fact that we're even having this conversation is to show that we don't have a true knowledge of self. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we don't have a true knowledge of self, if you put money on top of that, it's not going to be used for the benefit of mm-hmm. those to come, right? Mm-hmm. Because we don't have a true knowledge of self. Mm-hmm. So the best thing to do is start that fueling that I was speaking about earlier, mm-hmm. to get that knowledge of self going. And we have so many ways we could start that, and this is one of the ways to have that conversation. But one of the things we can do too is to rally with other groups through the Caribbean, to rally to the UN, to have a day set, just like they have days to observe other things, to have the Atlantic slave trade to be one of those days set for our youths to have a memorial, to understand that this was some wrong that was done to us for some time. So you have to start the way. The other thing we have to do is also look at the people we elect to office to rule us, and one of the things is maybe it's going to be difficult that way, because most of the people that we elect are the same people who have that condition that they don't see it necessary or meaningful to keep the story alive. Mm. So let's just move forward. Let's go out there and just get some investment from some white people, and let's just continue doing that. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying that we need to change that.
Okay.
We need to change that. Once we change that, so like once we got people, and I think we do have a prime minister there who have some black consciousness in him. Maybe he just need to surround himself with some more black conscious people.
Let me jump in there.
Sure.
Let me jump in here. Remember, CARICOM Reparations Commission was formed with governments coming together, the CARICOM governments coming together back in 2013 to create a reparations commission with different, every CARICOM member has a committee who is represented at CARICOM. So it came, I think at that time, Dr. Douglas was in office, and I think, it's fair to say that he has been conscious enough, he was conscious enough, along with the other heads of government, to do this. When we were formed, it was under the unity construct where Dr. Harris asked me about whether I'd be interested in chairing the committee, and looked and reached out to other people who wanted to be a part of the committee. I think we had a first committee that was during the time of Dr. Douglas's administration. We are continuing under this administration, and the Prime Minister is very supportive of it. As a matter of fact, I'm supposed to meet with him today. So, because we want to discuss ahead of next week's meeting with the company in England who's talking reparatory, who we want to discuss, some form of reparatory justice with. So, there's support, and as to how we're going to go, of course, CARICOM isn't saying that we're going to hand a check to every person. And some people, we're not saying that at all. We are saying there are certain things that has to be done. So there's a 10-point plan, and actually the 10-point plan is currently being reviewed at this time. But you have the apology, you have the repatriation, you have cultural exchanges and so on, return, the debt cancellation, and all of those things. There's a number of things on the 10-point plan. Ira can help me with that.
That's all right.
Yes. I'm looking for the other things on the 10-point plan. Psychological repair, basically, we would have gone through that's trauma.
Healing we talked about.
And we really need to psychologically rebuild, the African mind. The things such as changing names of our streets and buildings. Repatriation is also one of the things that are mentioned in the 10-point plan. Remembering that we were forcibly removed, and we are not here by our own wishes, and so there must be that right to return, a facilitated right to return, and that is ensuring in the 10-point plan as well. I think that's. Not sure how many we mentioned there.
Yeah, but I think one of the things too we.
But if I could, if I could just say though, I do understand the whole reasoning in terms of it must be a developmental process when it comes to reparations, but let us not think that black people can't handle money. Because we are a living example of it that could be positive and negative, because we've seen how it is being squandered around. But we do have some successful businesses. We do have the brain and the mindset, if given the opportunity, that we can successfully handle our financial affairs. So let this not be a drawback, because there are people out there who are questioning the 10-point plan in terms of, and they too would have wanted to see, along with all the other developmental programs, they also wanted to see the common man being able to get something in his hand as, hey, this is a part of it. As to how that is going to play out, that's left to be seen.
But is it a question of whether black people could handle money? Or
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad Iyah said that. And to piggyback off of that is like I'm saying, I would not deny that there are some people who were successful in their move towards business and different stuff like that. But we're talking about the general population in the Caribbean. So I'm saying the fact that it is not to bring the one or two isolated situation, but let's look at the whole thing in the sense that one, we do have control over our education system. It even goes fast to CXC. How much of that is geared towards that black story? Matter of fact, we say February is Black History Month. If the seriousness was there, don't you think that for that entire month, Black history would have been taught in all the schools in the Caribbean? But that's not happening. So what I'm saying is that the people in the general populace is not really ready for certain things. So let's get them ready. So I'm not saying that let's don't do it. Let's get ready before we do it. So, and then when you look at the whole religious part of it now, I mean, you're probably a youngster, but when you go way back to the Caribbean islands, you had one or two churches around. Right now, saying it's have more than 200 different denominations, right? So just imagine that, and most of them are started by some foreigner, right? Hardly any of them. It's only Rastafari is still glued to the concept of our story, but most of the other religions are by some foreigner, and you're trying to make yourself fitting into that. So I'm saying that we have all that to deal with. We have the religious part to deal with. We have the education to deal with. We have the whole socializing aspect to deal with. We have the family to deal with. Which brings me to this point to say that if you read the Willie Lynch letters, one of the things that was mentioned in those letters is that even after they have done all they had to do with our ancestors, it would take at least 300 years before people are mentally free from that. Right now we're only 100 and something years away from that. So I'm saying that the process is not going to be easy. We could see that right now. The process is not going to be easy. So we started it with a conversation. But there's a whole lot of things we can do in the meantime. So I suggest, like I'm going to say it again because I want this to sink in well. We need to put a date in the UN Days of Observance for the Atlantic slave trade and our Holocaust, basically.
Isn't it?
It's not. August 23rd or 28th?
No, there's something there saying something. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you have the Jewish Holocaust on the 27th of January. When is our Holocaust? There's none. But there's something in there to talk something about something which to me is not effective enough.
Yeah,
because
I think what it is that it's not effective.
It's not effective enough.
It's not effective, but the 23rd is supposed to be the 23rd of August.
Supposed to be.
Yeah,
but so we need something just as effective
hardly anything
as the Jews. Because look, we might be the only set of people in the world who don't make sure and make it necessary that our children speak the language of our ancestors. So we're not doing that. So I'm saying that we have steps that we could take to start the process instead of just talking, because we might be here next year again talking, right? So instead of just talking, let's get to doing some stuff, right? And we could start that with the education system. And we have maybe we need to have a conversation with the ministers of government, so that what they're doing could also in some way effect some change going forward to keep the story alive. Even if they don't have the mindset for it, let's try to have that conversation with them as well. So we have a lot of stuff we can do. So for me, it's not just about talking about it. I mean, I don't know what the program The Edge really is about, in the sense what it allows and what it don't allow. But remember, Frank and Candid was, let's talk hard. So I'm willing to talk hard.
Okay, so
if you come down to it.
Rasmussen is talking about us learning a language. I mean, as I said at the beginning of the show, Africa is made up of so many different cultures, so many languages. Where do we start? Okay, maybe we can start with one of the popular languages, like Swahili. I mean, I gave my children Swahili names that I knew. We've had a whole thrust of people over the years giving their children African names. So, I remember one person telling me, that's Swahili, the names are so simple, we think it can't possibly be African. We can start thinking about, a lot of times we look at going to America, we look at going to England. How many of us are looking at taking a holiday and going to Africa?
Condition.
And we have this fear. And I'm going to talk even for myself. Last year I visited Africa for the very first time. I went to Kenya. And I was staying at a hotel, and I stayed on the grounds. I walked around the grounds, and there was this fear of wandering off. Okay? And one morning I told myself, take a walk. Walk outside of the hotel. At least for 1 kilometer, go walking. You understand? And I did that. Because if I was in Barbados, if I was some other place in the States, I go walking. You understand? So why not take that walk? And so I did. At least I gave myself at least 1 kilometer away from the hotel. Let me walk that distance. So it's like, again, as much as you may think you're so conscious, there it is, my mentality, I'm afraid to go walking because you hear so much, negative stuff about, I did not go partying outside of the hotel or anything like that.
Right.
So you have these fears because you have looked at television giving you all of this stuff so much. I mean, even for our little Jamaica, we even afraid out there as well. So, because the media feeds you so much. So those are steps that may be little steps that we have to take, but those are steps that we need to take and, do things that will make Africa a lot more attractive at the end of the day. So I'm looking at the time, yeah?
Yeah, so
we haven't taken any calls.
We have, you guys open too?
Yeah, maybe you can see.
Do we have any callers on the line? All right. Callers, we do? Okay, we'll open the phone lines now and we'll begin taking your calls. 465-2555 or 718-577-2916. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm your host, Devonne Cornelius. In the meantime, let's continue the conversation.
Talking of when he talked about royalty, I don't know if I've shared this on this station, but I did go through a little ritual when I went to Africa and was named Queen Mother. So I'm now Queen Mother Iyah. My children tease me, but yes. Yeah, so I was some kings and queens who were attending the same convention. They called me and said, they like what I had to say at the convention and so on. And the fact that I'm actually made it to Africa. The government had sponsored the trip as well, so I talked quite a bit about St. Kitts and Nevis and they actually, a lot of people had never heard of our islands who were attending. So at the end of the day, so I'm Queen Mother Iyah. I'm firstborn. I don't know how they came up with the name, but I am a firstborn.
Felt your energy, huh?
All right, we have a caller on the line. Caller, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, nice program. My question is, how much countries are there on the continent of Africa? That's one. How many languages are there on the continent of Africa? Number two, why is it that none of you all on the panel here is speaking an African language? Those are my couple questions.
Could I answer?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Well, it's about 54 countries in Africa. In terms of languages, we don't know the amount because you have like some languages that are like official languages, and then you have like dialect offshoots of different languages and so on. As to why we're not speaking the language is why we're having this conversation in the beginning, that these are things we need to do. We need to learn these languages so that we can speak it. If we start to speak the African languages, I'm not versed in any, but had I been versed in any, and I start speaking in the African language, how many persons listening right now would understand what I'm saying? So I'm saying, let's learn these languages. Let's get them in the schools, and we could move forward into the generations to come. So I guess the caller, I hope that when the classes begin,
they will
this person would show.
When we were in Jamaica, I went to Jamaica, and there was the group of royals from different parts of Africa, including South Africa. And there's a young lady who chanted in an African language, a South African language, with the clicking and all of that. And even if I could not understand, I felt it, And sometimes you look at videos and so on, and you hear in the language, you may not understand it, but somehow you understand. Like somehow you get into understand it. So within our DNA, I believe there's a memory.
Muscle memory.
Okay, yes. So there's a memory within our DNA. So yeah, it would be great to first be able to learn it. At this time, it's not what we've been.
All right. Let's go back to the phone lines and we'll take some more calls. Caller, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, blessed greetings, King.
Good morning.
Yes.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm telling you something. Why is topic here about Africa and black people?
The topic is about knowledge of self. Basically, our redemption through our black story.
Well, the black people coming from Africa a long time. Most of them don't time. And the young people have not been in Africa because I never learned in school about Africa. 20 years now. You understand?
Yeah.
So when it comes to Africa, black people from the whole Caribbean. So all of these people come from Africa, Caribbean and Caribbean nationality.
Well, it's good that you're saying this, caller, because we would invite you to listen out when we're having these conversations, and maybe you could be a part in the sense that you could even come to our Gideon area and the Nyabinghi areas.
All the Buckley were we were keeping here. They couldn't tell me about it.
Even all of that.
I'm going to let you go, but you could do that. Because as far as me see, if a minimum wage, I will keep enough for it, but I will still fight for it. So I'm not going to.
All right, Colin, thank you for your contribution. We want to take at least one more call. The phone lines are open. Let's take your call at 465-2555 or 718-577-2116. You have a caller? We don't.
The thing is, right, is...
heard from Iyah for a while.
Yeah.
Iyah, you still with us?
I'm still here.
All right. Well, we'll begin wrapping up because we have about 3 minutes or so left. Can we get... All right. Can we get something from you, Rasai, right?
Yeah, sure. It's have you ever realized when you wake someone from a deep sleep, how vicious sometimes, how wild they behave? We have to be careful because bringing knowledge of self and our story to some of our people, we will get the same reaction. Because people, colonialism, slavery, neo-colonialism has done a lot to the mindset of our people. They have created a totally different race. However, we cannot detach ourselves. We are not descendants of Africans. We are Africans.
Thank you for that.
The DNA has never changed. It continues with us. We only happen to be on a different island, and so this is we must approach it from that standpoint. Slavery and all these things about reparations are still very relevant today. People might say they happened a long time ago. So did the death of Jesus happen a long time ago, and today it is what people focus on.
Every Saturday.
Slavery would have gone, but it is in 2015 that you and I, our parents, stop paying for the monies that England gave to the slave owners, their children and their grandchildren are today living sky high, successful, because of the inheritance of their great-grandparents, which in fact is the monies that they would have gained through the works, the labor, and even selling of your grandparents, put them in that position today. We have as much right to that as anybody else. Give thanks.
All right, thank you for that. Do we have any callers in the line, right?
No, we're just closing up.
Okay, yeah. We have a few minutes left, so let's use this opportunity to get any closing comments from our panelists. You said there's a caller? Okay, we'll take this final call and then we'll begin to wrap up. Caller, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. I'm a fellow Kiddishan. I was born in St. Kitts, the Federation. This question might be a little odd, but it's appropriate information that I'm trying to get. Where was Marcus Garvey's mother born? In St. Kitts or Jamaica?
All right, thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Well, I visited the Marcus Garvey Museum when I went to Jamaica. I did not see anything about that. I can't recall. I would have to go back and see, but there's been this debate on social media about Marcus Garvey being born in St. Kitts, but when I visited the museum, I saw nothing to substantiate that. Okay.
I've heard the same story. I just want to say quickly, because another time short, but I wish the edge was like 2 hours. Just want to say quickly that we speak about Africa, Kebulan, whichever name it is, and the 54 countries that are there. But what I want to say is that Africa is not just, and Iyah said it, so to piggyback off of what he said, we are not descendants, we are, right? We are Africans in that sense. The people from the land, the melanated people. But the other races most likely also spring out of the same land, went off in the earlier time, because according to the history, the Chinese ventured out for 200 years going east. And when you look over there, you have these people who look very similar. And if you check their history books, even Buddha they look something like me and you. Now Buddha look totally different. Buddha right now look gold and silver and all kind of things. So we know that the Chinese, the Indians, they're all from the same area. They left a very long time ago. Probably don't have the history interrupted like how we had ours for 400 years. And we're saying that, if they, in their state, making sure that their children could go back as far as they want them to go back, why are we only trying to go back to the Willie Lynch area? And then, but as Iyah said, the story of Jesus Christ being crucified was like 2,000 years ago, but yet every Sunday and Saturday for some, our people go and try to make sure keep that story alive. And this story of our interruption is just a couple hundred years ago, and we don't want to have nothing to do with that. So this is why it's so important, at least for the children, because if those who are standing now are at that mental condition state where they're rejecting knowledge, at least offer it to the children, so that when they grow up, they decide what they're going to do with it, whether or not they're going to cast it away or pass it on to their children. But don't just close the door on it. So I say educate the youths.
Press, all right?
There are some Chinese, born in St. Kitts. Do you think you go and call them Chinese? They never been to China, You think they would ever tell you they're not Chinese? Marcus Garvey's mother was actually from Sandy Point. History is there to prove it. The question mostly was really where Marcus Garvey himself was born, but his mother was definitely a Richards from Sandy Point. Just want to say thank you to the Nyabinghi Theocracy for making this program possible as part of their activities for the Black Story Month. Again, asking ones and ones to continue supporting Nyabinghi, and efforts like these. You know, you are an African. It doesn't matter where you were born. Being an African has nothing to do with where you're born. You're an African because Africa is in you. One black love.
Thank you. Carla?
Again, let me follow and say thanks to the Rastafari Nyabinghi Theocracy Order for inviting me to come on this program. As chair of the St. Kitts Nevis Reparation Committee, it is my honor to be a part of this discussion. To redeem ourselves, I maintain that we have to do so through education, through healing, and other, learning of our culture. All of that falls under education, being more proactive. I think everyone has to understand that we are a people who are African. We descended from Africans who were enslaved here. Okay, yes, we may be mixed with other 1% German, 1% Irish, 2% Indian, whatever. 90-something% African. Okay, so it is for us to use what is available to us today, technology, to discover about ourselves. No one has to tell you that you can go on the internet. People sit on the internet and watch a lot of nonsense. Put in what you want to learn about, which is about the people from whence you came. And on that note, I say, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You've been listening to The Edge for Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. Until next time, you guys stay safe. See you tomorrow, same station, same time. Have a good one.
Thank you.